So, what are your thoughts on perpetuating these stereotypes when a lot of the first-person games are packaged as, you know, the hero is this like typical white guy who's going to save the day?
Well, I'm of course against perpetuating stereotypes, and I think that one of the assumptions that we can take from this data set is that if game designers were to create more diverse experiences, instead of just, you know, here's my tough, you know, white guy shooting everyone, because players will feel more invested in the character through that first person perspective, and they'll be able to, you know, gain more out of the game and, you know, in a way grow as a person. You know, an example that always comes to mind is Gone Home, where the player is placed in the first person view of a young woman who's returning home and is exploring her house, abandoned. She doesn't know where her parents were, where her sister is. And as you, the player, walks around the house, playing the role of the character, you get to feel what it's like to be an older sister concerned about her younger sister, someone concerned about her parents. And if you take into consideration also the atmosphere of the game, how it looks broody, you keep expecting jump scares to come out of you left and right, and they never come. You know, the game does a really good job at taking the player, whether that player is like straight white dude who just came back from, you know, from a tour somewhere, or whether it's someone more like me who's never done a day of exercise in their life, and, you know, it's like more, let's say, in tune with their inner self. And placing us in this foreign role, right? I think that's a really powerful tool that developers can use. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go, please. Okay. Something that I was noticing is I would really like to see the breakdown in between Western developed games and Eastern developed games. I noticed that you had Tomb Raider, which is, I believe it's Square Enix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed Catherine also has an Eastern development cycle, and I was wondering if there was a distinction between identification in Western games and Eastern games, because Western games originate from this, adventure games in particular originate from the pen and paper, you know, RPG sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm wondering if there's something there.
I think that's a really interesting question to look at, but I'm not sure that just a game being developed in, you know, Japan versus being developed in the US, you know, has any kind of major impact. If you think, for example, about The Lost Odyssey, that's a JRPG in pretty much every way, but it was developed in the US. And then if you look at Dark Souls, that's a Western game in pretty much every way that you can think of, but it was developed in Japan. So if we're going to, you know, go along that line of questioning, what we need to take into consideration is what makes for, you know, Eastern development practices versus Western development practices, and then see how those might affect, you know, the process by which the player relates to the character. I actually think that Final Fantasy 15, which I just finished playing, I have over 200 hours on that, would be a great text to look at. You know, by the time I was done playing that game, I actually felt that I was closer friends with Noctis and his voice than a lot of people I know in the real world, right? So how did that happen? Is there any kind of inherent Western nice mechanic that they have? Is it about the camping? Is it about the pictures and telling Prompto, go take a picture while everyone here is fighting this monster, right? But that's not something that I haven't looked at yet specifically, but, you know, it's a great suggestion.
I'm not sure that you will be able to answer this because it's not in your study, but I only played one game of the ones that you listed.
Mm-hmm.
But I've played games before where I identify with characters that could be male or female, based on morality choices.
Yeah.
So earlier I talked about Red Dead Redemption, and I can identify with that character because I'm able to be an agent that I make my own decisions, and I feel like it's mine, even though it's masked a completely different character than I am. And I played L.A. Noire, where I was really into it until my character cheated on his wife, and then I paused it and I never started it. I'll edit it because I couldn't finish that story because I just couldn't do it. So did you find when you were talking to people that you can identify first person or even third person.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the comments that I got, and that's actually partly reflected in a lot of data, is that when they had an active role in building the character, they did feel more of a sense of ownership. If you'll notice, those two games, Mass Effect in the third person and then Skyrim in the first person, are games that actually do let you control the choices of the character. So in Mass Effect, for example, do you betray your friend Krogan and help the evil alien race? I forget her name. Survive, or do you keep the Krogan and screw the other aliens, right? And then in Skyrim, of course, it's all about your choices. You are this great warrior who must go off and save the country, but first, will you do me a favor and go fetch me that flower over there? Right? And so what I found in my interviews is that yes, absolutely, the more agency that a player had over a character, the more they felt that character belonged to them. But on top of that agency perspective, they kind of enhance that sense of identification even further. So that's your question.
Your subject pool, you kind of showed once again the psychological importance of white male privilege, which is kind of fun and easy to do, in the classic sense that straight white male is the lowest difficulty setting there is, right? But did you get together any basic demographic data on that subject pool? Did you ask them, socioeconomic status questions? And because you talked about which school they came from as a socioeconomic thing, which I thought was really interesting, on age groups or any of the basic demographic stuff that you can do if you were a psychologist.
No, yeah, I did collect age group. It was 18 to 22. All participants were. I did not formally collect data from socioeconomic status, but I do know the participants. They were my students last year. That's how I'm able to tell you that, for example, with the African American kids, there was that strict divide of if you come from a school that's better off, then you would have had that mostly that first-person perspective for first-person characters, etc.
Most of your questions were open-ended questions?
Yep. So there was more of a set of interviews.
Thank you. Great stuff.
Just part of the demographics, did you ask any how long people have been playing games by chance?
All of them were gamers. Or at least all of them told me that.
Well, and so that's just something I find interesting is gamers, the term there.
Absolutely right. And gamers are dead, long-lived gamers. All of them do have robust experience with playing video games in some form or another. What I found is that a lot of the male participants were more, PC console, where a lot of the female participants were more mobile, which I should note, mobile games has a kind of negative connotation, but that does not mean that they were only playing, Angry Birds and the Candy Crush one. But a lot of them were mobile games in the sense of I play Fire Emblem Heroes. Mobile gamers in the sense of I play Synonia, someone that they told me mostly. It's kind of like Zelda, but for mobile phones, right? So it's not a question of game simplicity, but rather a question of they all had experience with complex games, regardless of platform. So does that answer your question?
If I could follow, so I thought, that'd be interesting to know how long you've been playing games versus how easy it is for you to maybe identify with a character versus somebody who plays it for the first time. Another thing that I think would be interesting, because you plan to do a lot more of this, right? One thing I think would be interesting, even more age variety, because I talk about the whole picture of when you play video games. I wonder, easier to identify with any type of character that you've been playing, just through 3 years old versus that picture. My grandfather, I handed the controller all the time, and he says, I played the Mario, I drove the Mario Kart.
Absolutely, that's definitely an interesting question, but like I said, this is a work in progress. For the first round, I just wanted to focus on questions of race, gender, and whether perspective plays a role. So maybe as I move forward and I collect more data, then yes, I'll ask my mom to play some and see what she says.
I was just wondering, you mentioned that there were a bunch of people that did the first batch and then just didn't bother showing up again for
Yeah.
that second round. Kind of two-pronged. Was there any like trends in who didn't come back, and were you able to catch up with people and find out why they didn't come back for that second?
I was not. Those were all community college students in Tulsa. I was teaching at the time. And in Tulsa, they have this really interesting model where before students go on to the four-year institution, they have to take all their basics in Tulsa Community College. And so I got a bunch of students to start my study off with. Then a lot of the students who just didn't show up, I would guess, just stopped caring about their degree. Maybe they got a promotion, or they came to the community college to get one course, and because they want photography. And so that's what.
Okay, so it's probably a lot of students that ceased to be students
Yeah.
between the two.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay.
So any other questions?
So, in looking at avatars and looking at kind of, I guess, the standard, stereotypical player that we see in so many games, the white, warrior type, white male warrior type that we all see, is doing a study like this, is the goal to demonstrate to kind of the gaming industry that demand or the need or the benefits of diversifying the avatar base, to see that diversity and to see the positive benefits that can have on society, and to demonstrate a desire by the gaming community for those other types?
I actually did not know what I wanted to do with this study when I started, but as I started looking at the data, my desire became to let the gaming industry know that they can do so much better than just giving us the stereotypical here's Conan kind of story. That they can actually tell stories that are meaningful, that are engaging, and that players will want to play regardless of the player's race or gender. That they can tell diverse stories of, for example, a Middle Eastern woman, now coming across a border, for example. That would make for a really great game that someone could make, that they could set in the first-person perspective, and that players will get a lot from, that will help them grow as individuals. But we don't get those experiences because, of course, we all know that what players want is to go out and shoot people. So, so that's kind of my intent. Essentially, tell the game industry, do better, and don't worry about what the players say they want, because they will see themselves as a character regardless.
Right, because they're too afraid to take the risk, to create a game that isn't a sure thing, that will, for sure sell.
So that would be a bigger discussion of video game publishing and the cost of AAA gaming nowadays.
Yeah. Well, if you take into perspective, Remember Me, a game that no one thought was going to be any good and actually turned out to be a critical hit, not commercial because I didn't give the promotion. But anyone whom you ask, that game featuring what appears to be a Hispanic/Latino protagonist kicking ass in Tokyo, was very well received by gaming critics. Remember Me. It has a female character, and her superpower, so to speak, is to hack the memories of her opponents. To kind of redefine how they see reality in order to take down these gigantic corporations, right? And so that's a game that, from a traditional perspective, that's not going to work. No one's really going to like that because who cares about this Latina character in Tokyo? It turns out a lot of people do. So does that kind of answer your question? Well,
It was just actually.
Okay, cool. Thank you.